Funny, I was just talking to the doorman. My husband smirked. He mentioned some interesting security footage from the elevator a few days ago and asked if I wanted to see it. So, before I do, is there anything you want to tell me about you and my best friend? Let's just get this out of the way. My husband is a mean drunk. I'm not talking about a guy who gets loud at parties. I'm talking about hours-long, circular rants in our living room at 2 a.m., where every single one of my flaws is put under a microscope. And for years, his favorite one, his go-to weapon, was my weight. After one particularly awful night where he slurred the word fat at me like it was my first name, something inside me just snapped. The next morning, I bought a pair of running shoes. I decided if he was going to have a target, I was going to make it a moving one. And it worked. Running became my sanctuary. The burn in my lungs felt cleaner than the air in my own apartment. And that's how I got to know Mark. He's one of my husband's oldest friends from high school. And it turns out he's a pretty serious runner in my neighborhood. We started running with the same group, tackling the same half marathons. He was the person I could vent to. I'd tell him about the nights spent listening to my husband's drunken tirades. And just listen, seeing the wild version of my husband growing up. But Mark had matured, my husband hadn't, for over a year. We fell into a routine that was the only stable thing in my life. He'd text me, lobby in 5, and I'd meet him downstairs before sunrise. It was still dark, and I lived closer to the park, so it just made sense. We'd run, then we'd grab coffee, and he'd walk me back to my building. It was safe. It was platonic. He was just this solid, kind presence who would always end our talks by saying something like, "You really deserve so much better." A couple of days ago, that routine shattered. We finished our run, got our coffees, and were standing outside my building. "Hey," he said, "mind if I come up and use your bathroom?" It was a weird request. In more than a year, had never asked. He could have just used the one at the coffee shop, would literally just left. But my first thought was purely logistical. My husband is going into the office today. He's not home. It seemed like a simple, harmless thing. So I said, "Sure, come on up." We got into the elevator, and the silence was different than usual. As the doors closed, he turned to me. He gently put his free hand on my cheek, his fingers just grazing my jawline, his other hand, still holding his iced coffee, pressed against my lower back, pulling me a little closer to him. Before my brain could even process what was happening, he leaned in and just put his lips on mine. It wasn't really a kiss. There was no movement, just pressure. I could feel he was hard against me, and I can still feel the shocking cold of that plastic coffee cup seeping through my thin running shirt. My entire body went rigid. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I just froze. My brain was just white noise. Then, the elevator dinged, and the doors slid open. The sound was so loud, so normal, it jolted me back to reality. As I took a shaky step into the hallway, one single, terrifying thought cut through the fog. The camera, the little black dome in the corner of the elevator ceiling. My mind started racing. Who watches that footage? The doorman. The same doorman my husband makes a point of being overly friendly with. The same guy he gives a fat tip to every Christmas. I felt sick. The image of the two of us replayed in my head, not as a moment of confusing intimacy, but as a silent, grainy piece of evidence. We walked a few feet to my apartment door in the most charged silence I've ever experienced. I could feel him behind me, but I didn't dare look back. My hands were shaking so badly it took me 3 tries to get the key into the lock. The metallic click as the deadbolt turned sounded like a gunshot in the quiet hall. I took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and my world just stopped. He was there, my husband. He was sitting at the kitchen island, dressed for work, eating a bowl of cereal with our 2 dogs at his feet. He had an AirPod in one ear, laptop open, clearly on a work call. He saw us, hit the mute button on his screen, and gave a completely casual smile. "Hey, man," he said to Mark, his voice totally normal. "What are you doing here?" My blood ran cold. My 2 worlds, the one where I was a miserable, trapped wife, and the other where I had a safe friend to talk to about it, had just slammed into each other right in my own kitchen. I watched, frozen, as Mark somehow managed to look composed. "Hey," he replied, his voice a little tight. "Sorry to drop in, just needed to use the bathroom real quick." He walked right past my husband, didn't even glance at me, and shut the bathroom door. My husband unmuted his call and went back to his meeting, occasionally nodding at his screen. The next 60 seconds were the longest of my life. I was just standing there, my heart hammering against my ribs, trying to make my face look like nothing was wrong. The sound of the toilet flushing made me jump. A moment later, Mark came out, walked to the door, and said, "All right, man, see you later." My husband gave him a thumbs up, still focused on his call. And just like that, Mark was gone. The door clicked shut, and I was left alone with my secret, standing in the middle of a minefield I didn't even know I was on. That was 2 days ago. Since then, I've been living in a state of low-grade, constant terror. Every time I walk through the lobby, my heart starts pounding. I try to act casual, give a little wave to the doorman, but my eyes immediately dart to his face, searching for any sign that he knows. Does he look at me differently? Is he talking to the other building staff? The elevator has become a torture chamber. I stand in the opposite corner, staring at the floor, feeling the unblinking eye of that security camera on my back. It's no longer just a piece of equipment. It's a silent witness that could detonate my life at any moment. And then there's the silence for Mark. Complete, deafening silence. My 6 a.m. alarm goes off, and my phone stays dark. There's no text, no lobby in 5, nothing. He's just gone. And while a part of me is relieved to not have to face him, the reality is crushing. That routine, that 1 hour of sanity in my day, has been amputated from my life. His silence is the answer I was afraid of. He knows he crossed a line, and this is his way of disappearing. I didn't just have a weird moment in an elevator. I lost my running partner. I lost my friend. So now I'm left with these 3 horrible, conflicting things rattling around in my head. First, there's the fear. It's cold and sharp, and it follows me everywhere. I'm scared shitless that the doorman is going to make some offhand comment to my husband, and it will all unravel. Second, and this is the part I'm ashamed to even admit, is this tiny, secret flicker of excitement. For 2 minutes, someone saw me as something other than a nuisance. Someone wanted me. It was just a feeling, a ghost of a touch, and the memory of the cold coffee cup on my back, but it was the first time in years I'd felt anything other than invisible. And third, beneath it all, is just this profound, gut-wrenching sadness. I'm right back where I started, trapped in this house with a man who hates me. Except now, it's worse. Before, I had an escape route. I had a person. Now, I have nothing but the memory of what it felt like to have an ally, and the terror of a secret that could make my already miserable life infinitely worse. I don't know what to do. Do I text Mark? What could I possibly say? Or do I just let the one good thing I had die because of a 10-second mistake in an elevator? I feel so completely and utterly alone. What do I do now?